Finally, at the age of 78, Emmylou Harris breaks her silence over John Denver. She is acclaimed for her soaring vocals, her passionate songwriting, and her ability to smoothly traverse the lines of country, folk, rock, and Americana. Emmylou Harris was born on April 2, 1947 in Birmingham, Alabama. She is considered to be one of the most prominent voices in American music. Beginning at a young age, Harris shone both academic and artistic abilities. It was a military household that she grew up in. As a result of her father's experience as a prisoner of war in Korea, she was instilled with a feeling of resiliency and fortitude that would later be reflected in her musical compositions. Her father was a Marine Corps lieutenant. In spite of the fact that she was majoring in acting at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, she found that she was increasingly drawn to folk music. She was influenced by musicians such as Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, and Pete Seeger on her musical journey. Her passion for music would eventually lead her to abandon her academic pursuits and embark on a career that would forever alter the landscape of American roots music. In the beginning of her career as a musician, she had a difficult time. In the late 1960s, she relocated to New York City, and during the height of the folk revival, she began performing in coffee shops located in the Greenwich Village neighborhood. During that time period, she, like many other young musicians, struggled to make ends meet by doing odd jobs, while simultaneously pursuing the unattainable goal of making a career through her writing and performing. This was the time period in which she released her first album, which was titled Gliding Bird, and was released in 1969. Although it was a project that hinted at her skill, it did not yet earn her considerable fame. Her resolution was put to the test by a number of personal challenges, such as a difficult marriage and the obligations that come with parenting. Nonetheless, her determination never faltered. During the early 1970s, she had a chance encounter with Graham Parsons, a famed country rock artist, which led to a significant change in both her life and her profession. The amazing vocal talent that Harris possessed was recognized by Parsons, who had previously been a member of the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers. Parsons extended an invitation to Harris to sing harmony with him. The duration of their musical collaboration was brief, but it had a significant impact. Both GP, which was released in 1973, and Grievous Angel, which was released in 1974, are albums that are today regarded as significant milestones in the evolution of country rock. Parsons' work was boosted by Harris's crystallization of harmonics, and she was introduced to the rich tapestry of traditional country music through his mentoring. Unfortunately, Parsons passed away in 1973 as a result of an overdose on drugs. This tragic incident left Harris in utter disbelief, but it also inspired her to continue carrying out his musical vision. She frequently referred to Parsons as her musical soulmate, and throughout her career, she paid tribute to his legacy, made certain that his pioneering spirit would never be forgotten, and made sure that his legacy would be honored. Following the passing of Parsons, Harris embarked on her own solo career with a fresh sense of purpose. The album Pieces of the Sky, which she published in 1975 after signing with Reprise Records, was the album that propelled her to popularity. The album had her typical blend of traditional country ballads, modern covers, and her own distinctive style, and it was the album that brought her to the attention of a significantly larger audience. The fact that she was able to make every song her own, whether it was a classic or a modern track, was proved by hits such as If I Could Only Win Your Love. She swiftly followed this breakthrough with a succession of critically acclaimed albums, including Elite Hotel in 1975, Luxury Liner in 1977, and Quarter Moon in a 10-Cent Town in 1978. Each of these albums cemented her status as one of the most creative and varied performers working in the industry. The fact that Harris is willing to work with others is one of the most distinguishing characteristics of her professional life. The Hot Band, which featured a teenage Rodney Crowell and virtuoso guitarist Albert Lee, was one of the musicians that she surrounded herself with. She used to surround herself with exceptionally skilled musicians. Later on, she collaborated with Dolly Parton and Linda Ronstadt on the Trio projects, which resulted in the creation of some of the most stunning three-part harmonies in the history of country music. Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Neil Young, and Bob Dylan were just some of the performers with whom she created duets and collaborations. She also worked with newer artists such as Buddy Miller, Gillian Welch, and Ryan Adams. Her work encompassed a wide range of musical styles and generations. Not only did this spirit of artistic giving broaden her musical horizons, but it also helped her build bridges between traditional country music, modern folk music, and rock music. The artistic expression of Harris has always been intensely personal and frequently mystical. Her songs usually investigate topics such as love, grief, longing, redemption, and the search for meaning when they are performed. It is not true that she has ever avoided being vulnerable. In addition, the fact that she is able to include unfiltered human feelings into her music is one of the reasons why her work is so tremendously compelling. She made significant changes from her earlier country sound with albums such as Wrecking Ball, which was released in 1995 and was produced by Daniel Lanois. These albums embraced ethereal textures and experimental production while yet retaining the emotional honesty that is characteristic of her music. Because of her willingness to take risks, her career remained new and relevant over the course of several decades, making her appealing not only to audiences of country music, but also to fans of alternative and indie music. In addition to her musical talents, Emmylou Harris is appreciated for her selfless approach to helping others and her quiet strength. Bonaparte's Retreat is a rescue group that is committed to preventing the destruction of canines through euthanasia. She has been a champion for the protection of animals and founded the organization. In addition, she has contributed her voice and platform to causes such as the clearance of landmines, the assistance of victims of natural disasters, and the support of veterans. In the same way that her music represents her compassion and sense of responsibility to the larger world, her activism displays the same qualities. Throughout the course of her career, Harris has been honored with a multitude of accolades and awards, such as 14 Grammy Awards, induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2008, and the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 2018. Despite the fact that they are prestigious, these accolades are only beginning to encapsulate her significance. A multitude of musicians, ranging from well-known stars to up-and-coming composers, have been influenced by her, and her body of work continues to serve as a touchstone for those who have faith in the ability of music to heal, bring people together, and transcend boundaries. Emmylou Harris has been married 3 times, and each of those marriages has left its own unique mark on her personal path. Through these marriages, she has experienced the complexity of love, partnership, and family life. She has freely labeled herself as a pretty wonderful ex-wife, which is a remark that indicates her thoughtfulness, honesty, and the self-awareness she brought to her relationships. She acknowledges both the joys and the hardships of marriage without harboring any resentment toward either of them. When she was living in the colorful, bohemian core of New York City's Greenwich Village, a district that is famed for its creative energy and thriving folk music scene, she met fellow folk musician Tom Slocum in 1969. This was the beginning of her first big romantic chapter. They tied the knot in the same year, establishing a partnership that brought together their personal and professional lives during a time of considerable cultural and musical transition in the United States. Their shared artistic sensibilities and youthful idealism pushed them to get married. With the birth of their first daughter, Hallie, in 1970, Harris and Slocum became parents for the first time. As Harris maintained the difficult balance between her rising profession and the obligations of motherhood, the advent of a kid represented a dramatic transformation for her. She was able to successfully navigate this change. In spite of the difficulties that come with being a performing artist and living on the road, she frequently brought her daughter, Hallie, along with her on tours when she was in the beginning stages of her career. This was done to ensure that the child was at least partially a part of her world. Despite this, Harris made the challenging choice to have Hallie spend the majority of her time living with her grandparents in Maryland. He did this because he understood that continual travel could not serve as a substitute for a stable and grounded upbringing for Hallie. As Harris reflected on this time period, he made the blunt observation, "I do not believe that the road is good for children." Her careful evaluation of what was actually in her daughter's best interest was highlighted by the fact that she occasionally finds it enjoyable, much like going to Disneyland, but she does not continue to do so as a way of life. Ultimately, Harris and Slocum's marriage ended in divorce in 1971, after just 2 years of being together. This marked the end of her first attempt at a long-term partnership between the two of them. Harris eventually fell in love once more, this time with her producer, Brian Ahern, after a number of years had passed. They began working together on a professional project, but eventually their friendship turned into a personal commitment. The culmination of their relationship was their marriage in 1977, which took place at Ahern's house in Halifax, Nova Scotia. This venue highlighted their shared respect for the natural beauty of their surroundings, as well as the closeness that they shared. After getting married, Harris and her husband decided to make their home in Studio City, which is located in Los Angeles, California. Studio City is a neighborhood that is well known for its connections to the entertainment industry, which enabled Harris to continue her profession as a musician while also establishing a family life. As a result of the birth of their second daughter, Megan, in 1979, Harris and Ahern were able to extend their family and bring about new experiences and challenges for Harris in her role as a mother. In this time period, Harris navigated parenting while also advancing his profession, which was fast gaining speed. This phase was a blend of household responsibilities and artistic development. As a result of the divorce that occurred in 1984, Harris was forced to relocate to Nashville, Tennessee. This occurred despite the fact that they had a history together and worked together creatively, a move that would pave the way for the next phase of her life, particularly in her career life, as well as her personal life. During the year 1985, Harris tied the knot with Paul Kennerly, a songwriter and record producer. This was her third marriage. This cooperation was founded on a mutual love of music and the art of storytelling. For a number of years, Harris and her family resided in an older house located close to Music Row in Nashville, which is considered to be the center of the city's country music business. At this location, Harris was able to maintain a strong connection to her profession while also having access to a familial environment that was rich with creative energy. In spite of the fact that they had similar beliefs and worked together on music, Harris and Kennerly's marriage, like the one she had previously experienced, ultimately resulted in divorce in the year 1993. Harris's thoughts on love, family, and life on the road were significantly influenced by each of these marriages, which played a vital role in defining himself. Giving her a comprehensive awareness of the delights and complexities of personal relationships, she was left with a deeper appreciation for both. Fans of both Emmylou Harris and John Denver have been speculating for decades about the true nature of their friendship, the occasional collaborations they have done together, and the profound respect they appear to have for one another as artists. She has now, at the age of 78, opened up in a rare and heartfelt interview, shedding light on the bond that they shared and the lasting impact that Denver had on her life and career. Harris has often been reserved about discussing her private relationships, particularly with fellow musicians of Denver's stature. However, she has now opened up about her relationship with Denver. Harris, who is renowned for her ethereal voice and the smooth way in which she blends country, folk, and rock elements, started by contemplating the kind of person John Denver was outside of the stage persona that millions of people all over the world cherished. Genuineness was the greatest quality that John possessed. She explained in a low voice. Not a single pretense could be found in him. The individual who was singing "Take Me Home Country Roads" was the same individual that you would encounter behind the scenes or when taking a peaceful stroll through the hills. He was a firm believer in the majesty of nature, in the power of kindness, and in the ability of music to bring people together. That was not a performance. Rather, it was an authentic representation of who he was. She went on to recall how their paths met during the height of the folk and country boom in the 1970s, when Harris was just beginning to make a name for herself and Denver was already a well-known figure on a global scale. Their musical tastes were surprisingly complementary to one another, and despite the fact that they never collaborated on a whole album, their performances, whether they were at benefit concerts or special occasions, continue to be fondly remembered by their fans. Harris remarked with a grin that singing with John was no difficulty at all. It felt as though our voices were able to comprehend one another. He possessed a tenor that was crystal clear and soared, and whenever I would come in with a harmony, it was as if we were weaving something that was more significant than the two of us. When you listen to music, there are times when you don't have to think. You simply feel, and that's exactly what it felt like when he was playing. As she continued to speak, Harris's tone changed to one that was more contemplative. She acknowledged the tragic end of Denver's life in 1997, when he was only 53 years old and died in a plane crash. Even after every single one of these years, she still has a hard time remembering it. I don't believe that anyone who knew him has ever really recovered from the loss that they experienced, she said. Suddenly, it came as a complete surprise, and it felt like it was so unfair. John had a great deal more to contribute. It was for a very long time that he was going to be around, because he possessed this brightness and this presence. After hearing the news, I remained silent for a considerable amount of time. A portion of me probably didn't want to believe it at first. In spite of the fact that Denver's life was cut short far too soon, Harris was quick to point out that his legacy will go on in a significant way thanks to his music and the environmental concerns that he advocated for. She pointed out that John was ahead of his time in a great number of ways. He had a profound concern for the environment, for the protection of the natural world, and for the fact that we should be stewards of this earth. John was utilizing his position to say, "We need to take care of this place we call home," long before it became usual practice to discuss issues such as climate change or conservation. It was not in a preachy manner that he did it, but rather via his songs. He did it with love. Before responding to the question of what she personally takes away from her friendship with Denver, Harris took a moment to reflect before proceeding with her response. She remarked, "I believe that what John gave me, along with a great number of other people, was permission to be authentic. There was never a time when he attempted to conform to a particular image or conform to the standards of the industry. Even if it wasn't popular at the time, he sung about the things that were important to him. To do so requires bravery. And I was reminded that I was capable of doing the same thing, that it was possible for me to sing songs that were written from the heart, even if they did not readily fit into any particular category. I was able to maintain my authenticity as an artist with the assistance of John." In light of the fact that Harris is currently contemplating her lengthy and remarkable career, she has admitted that it has not been simple for her to speak openly about Denver because the feelings are still raw. At the age of 78, however, she believes that it is essential to express her recollections of him, not only for the sake of herself, but also for the sake of future generations of music lovers who will continue to discover his music. She came to the conclusion that there are not many persons in this world who are like John. A mixture of melancholy and appreciation could be heard in her voice. "I think of him often. I will always remember him. And I am so thankful that I was able to travel with him on even a short portion of this adventure. When I listen to his songs, I get the impression that he is still present, serving as a gentle reminder to love more completely, to live our lives with less complexity, and to constantly keep our eyes on the beauty that is all around us." After a long period of silence, Emmylou Harris has finally broken her silence, providing her fans with a personal look into a friendship that is founded on music, respect, and a mutual appreciation for the simplest pleasures in life. Not only do her remarks serve as a memorial to John Denver, but they also serve as a reminder of the power that music has to establish ties that time and grief can never be able to get rid of.